Welcome back to The Explainer. So, today we're going to dig into this really powerful idea from the lean startup that could literally save your next big project from completely crashing and burning. It's all about this shift, right? Moving away from just blindly following a plan to, actually learning what works. And it all starts with understanding a pretty wild paradox.
Man, this quote it hits right at the heart of a huge, painful problem. Just think about it for a second. Imagine you've spent months, maybe even years, pouring your heart and soul into a plan. You execute it perfectly, you hit every single milestone, and then crickets. You find out nobody actually wants the thing you built. That right there, that's achieved failure. It's just a colossal waste of passion, time, and talent.
Okay, so that leads us right into our first big idea here, the myth of the perfect plan. You see, when you're dealing with extreme uncertainty, and let's be real, that's the world every single new venture lives in, having a super detailed plan can actually be your biggest weakness.
It's kind of wild, but way too many business plans look like they're trying to launch a rocket ship, you know? Everything has to be calculated perfectly before you even think about hitting go. The trajectory, the thrust, the timing, it's all pre-programmed with absolutely zero room for error. And that, right there, is the problem.
And yeah, just like that rocket, if even one of your initial guesses, your assumptions, is just a little bit off, maybe you got your customer wrong or you're solving the wrong problem, the whole project can just veer off course and, well, crash and burn. When you're flying into the unknown, you can't rely on a pre-programmed flight path. You need a totally different way to steer the ship.
So what is that new way to steer? Well, it starts by completely changing the goal. We have to stop thinking that progress means building more features or sticking perfectly to some master plan. The real goal, our true north, has to be one thing: learning.
And how do we measure that progress? We use this thing called validated learning. Now, this isn't just about collecting a few opinions or saying, hey, we learned a lot after something fails. No. This is a rigorous, almost scientific method for proving, with cold, hard data from actual customers, that you're on the right path to building a real, sustainable business. Okay, so this is all great in theory, right? But it brings us to the million-dollar question. How do you actually make this switch? How do you get out of that hamster wheel of just building, and start the real process of learning what you're supposed to be building?
Well, you do it by making a huge shift in your entire mindset. You move from something that looks a lot like alchemy, secretive, based on a hunch, just hoping for some magical result, to something that looks a lot more like science.
And when you put them side by side, the difference is it's night and day. On the alchemy side, you've got secrecy, these big dramatic launches, and a whole lot of just do it and hope. It's what we call success theater. Everything looks amazing on the surface, but underneath, the whole thing is about to fall apart. But on the science side, it's all about transparency, small iterative steps, having a clear hypothesis, and then running real tests to get that validated learning. It's a real process, not just crossing your fingers.
When it comes right down to it, it's all about this one core idea. You have to treat your startup, your project, whatever it is, as one grand experiment. Your vision, your brilliant strategy, those are just your starting hypotheses. They're just waiting for you to go out and test them.
This whole mind shift forces you to ask a totally different, and frankly, a much more important question. Look, in today's world, we can build almost anything we can dream up. So the real challenge, the question that really separates the winners from the losers, isn't can we build this? It's should we build this? And maybe even more critically, can we build a sustainable business around this thing? All right, so let's move this out of theory and into the real world. Let's see how this actually works. Because this isn't just some textbook idea. It's how some of the most successful companies out there actually got their start.
Okay, let's talk about Zappos. We all know them now, right? The billion-dollar giant famous for selling shoes online. But here's the thing. They didn't start with a giant warehouse and a massive, fancy website. Nope. It all started with one super simple experiment.
So here's how they did it. It's like a recipe. First, the hypothesis. We believe people are willing to buy shoes online. Pretty risky back then. Now, the experiment wasn't to go build an e-commerce empire. It was way simpler. The founder just went to local shoe stores, took pictures of their shoes, and posted them on a basic website. The measurement? Simple. Did anyone actually click buy? Only when an order came through did he go back to the store, buy the shoes, and ship them himself. And in that process, he got to talk to real customers and learn firsthand what they actually cared about. Okay, that's an awesome startup story for sure. But you might be thinking, does this only work for brand new companies? What about inside a massive corporation? Can you still use this scientific approach? And the answer is absolutely. Let's look at this example from inside HP. A team there had a goal. They wanted to get more employees to volunteer their professional skills. Now, the old way would be to build a huge company-wide software platform. But instead, they started small. First, they figured out their risky assumption. Do employees actually want to do this? Then they found their early adopters, the employees who are already passionate about this stuff. And for that tiny group, they ran a super low-tech manual test. They basically acted as a concierge, personally matching them with opportunities. And what did they measure? Not vanity metrics. They measured what mattered. Did these people volunteer again? Did they tell their colleagues? They figured out what worked on a tiny scale before they even thought about building something big.
Okay, so let's bring all this back to you. Because this isn't just for billion-dollar companies or tech startups in Silicon Valley. This is a way of thinking, a framework that you can start using like right now. This is all about your first experience.
And here's the first big mental shift you have to make. Are you ready? An experiment is a product. You got to stop thinking of experiments as this little thing you do before the real work starts. No, the experiment is the first product.
And why is that? It's because a really well-designed experiment is the absolute fastest way you can get through that critical build, measure, learn feedback loop with the least amount of effort. Remember, the goal is to learn, and the experiment is the most efficient engine for that learning. Every single feature, every line of code you write, every marketing dollar you spend, it should all be part of an experiment designed to teach you something vital.
So that leaves us with one last and honestly most important question. And I want you to think of this as a challenge. I want you to look at your idea, your project, your big vision, whatever it is. What is the single biggest, scariest, riskiest assumption that everything else is built on? And more importantly, what is the smallest, fastest, cheapest experiment you can run, maybe even tomorrow, to find out if you're actually right?